Philadelphia Eagles are absolutely dominating during the NFL draft, as they obviously have already added some great players in the first few rounds, and we already consider them to be one of the biggest winners of the draft. But there was still one position in question for the Eagles as we entered day 3 of the draft, and that was the running back position, and they were running out of options to address it. But it seems like Howie Roseman had a plan all along, as he just went out and made an insane trade to fill that hole. And we're going to talk all about that in this video today. But before we do that, make sure you go down and subscribe to this channel for more consistent Philadelphia Eagles content coming throughout this entire offseason and moving into next season. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a like on this video if you do enjoy. Now, with all that being said, let's get into the video. The running back position has been in question for the Eagles pretty much all offseason, as heading into the offseason, it seemed pretty obvious that Pro Bowl running back Miles Sanders was likely not going to be returning to the Eagles in 2023 because simply the Eagles just don't pay their running backs big money, and that's exactly what ended up happening as Miles Sanders went out in free agency and he signed a 4-year, $25 million deal with the Carolina Panthers, meaning the Eagles now had to move on from Sanders and go in a completely different direction at the running back position. And people didn't really know what direction that would be. Maybe people thought that they could roll with a guy like Kenny Gainwell to be the starting running back, who in his first couple seasons with the Eagles has had some success, but he's had a very limited role. Maybe given a bigger role, he could have a lot more success and prove to be a solid RB1 option for the Eagles. And it seemed like the Eagles had a lot of confidence in him. They also went out and addressed the running back position a little bit in free agency by signing Rashad Penny, the former Seattle Seahawks running back, to a 1-year deal. And I always thought that this was a good move because Rashad Penny is a guy who, when he's healthy, he's very, very good. And this was a low-risk, high-reward signing because they signed him for really, really cheap. It's just he's a guy who's been injured a lot throughout the course of his career, so it was definitely not a given he would be healthy for the Eagles all season, which made a lot of people question whether Penny could actually be the Eagles starting running back. And they also went out in free agency and brought back Boston Scott to a 1-year deal, who he's a good running back in certain situations and has had success before. It's just he's clearly not a starting running back in this league. So I think at this point, even though they did have some solid guys like Kenny Gainwell, Rashad Penny, and Boston Scott, the Eagles didn't have a bona fide running back number 1 on their roster, and I think there were a lot of Eagles fans that were pretty concerned about it. So then we thought, okay, maybe the Eagles could address running back early in this draft. They obviously held the 10th overall pick, and I think a lot of Eagles fans, including myself, were maybe thinking about the possibility of them drafting Texas running back Bijan Robinson, who was being compared to Saquon Barkley and being called a generational talent at the running back position. And I personally thought that adding Bijan Robinson to the Eagles offense would make their offense even more unstoppable, and I definitely thought that that was something they should consider, and it seemed like, at least heading into the draft, that the Eagles had some interest in doing that as well. But obviously that didn't end up happening because the Atlanta Falcons selected Bijan Robinson with the 8th overall pick, 2 spots ahead of where the Eagles were set to be picking. Now obviously then the Eagles traded up to get Jalen Carter, and I honestly think that that was a much better pick than Bijan Robinson, but still the situation at running back remained a little bit concerning. So then we looked ahead to the 30th overall pick. Maybe the Eagles could address running back there. Jahmyr Gibbs, who was the running back out of Alabama that was also considered to be the 2nd running back in this class, seemed like a guy that the Eagles could realistically get at 30, and it definitely seemed like he'd be available when the Eagles were on the clock for the 2nd time in the first round. But it turns out that that wasn't true, as the Detroit Lions shocked everybody and drafted Jahmyr Gibbs at number 12 overall. So obviously then the Eagles couldn't take him, and they had to look in a whole different direction in terms of addressing running back. But then we were sitting here on day 3 of the draft, and the Eagles through 4 rounds hadn't done anything to address that spot. Now I do think the Eagles actually did make some great picks in these mid rounds, and we're going to talk about them in future videos. So again, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss those videos. But still, it seemed like the Eagles had to do something to get another running back. Meanwhile, the Detroit Lions were a team who made major changes to the running back position this offseason as well. They obviously let their leading rusher from the 2022 NFL season in Jamal Williams go in free agency as he signed a deal with the Saints. And not only was Jamal Williams very productive on the field for the Detroit Lions, being the NFL touchdown leader last season, but he also was just a leader for them in that locker room. But the Lions didn't just lose players at running back, they also added someone in David Montgomery through free agency, as he was a really good quality starting running back for the Bears over the course of his career so far in the NFL. And I think in their minds, they may have upgraded at the running back position. And then obviously, as we talked about earlier in this video, the Lions selected Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back out of Alabama, number 12 overall. So with all these moves, there was one running back still on the Lions roster that was becoming the odd man out. And that was DeAndre Swift, who the Lions had drafted back in 2020. And he was really, at least in my opinion, a star for the Detroit Lions when he was on the field, but he constantly was a guy who was dealing with injury issues. issues, so it seemed like the Lions at this point were starting to phase him out of their long-term plans, and I think the drafting of Jahmyr Gibbs really demonstrated this. And then on Friday, the day after the first round of the draft where the Lions selected Gibbs, Jeremy Fowler put out a tweet saying this, quote, "The Lions are receiving trade calls on running back DeAndre Swift, whose representatives have been in contact with the team about potentially moving to a new team. With Detroit drafting Jahmyr Gibbs, the talented Swift appears poised to leave Detroit." So with that report, people started questioning whether a team like the Philadelphia Eagles could have heavy interest in DeAndre Swift. Obviously, throughout the course of this video, we've talked about the Eagles needing to acquire a running back, and it seemed like this might be the perfect opportunity, and people thought maybe the Eagles could actually go out and make a move to acquire Swift at some point during the course of this NFL draft. And now today, the Philadelphia Eagles have gone out and done just that, as Adam Schefter has reported that the Philadelphia Eagles have traded for former Lions running back DeAndre Swift, saying, quote, "Trade. After using their top pick on running back Jahmyr Gibbs, the Lions are trading DeAndre Swift to the Philadelphia Eagles per sources. The trade is a homecoming. Swift is from Philadelphia and went to high school there at St. Joseph's Prep before attending, of course, Georgia." And then Schefter continues on to elaborate on the compensation of the trade, saying, quote, "The Eagles get running back DeAndre Swift and a 7th round pick at number 249 overall, and the Lions get a 4th round pick in 2025 and 7th round pick number 219 overall." And my initial reaction was, wow, what another great move from Howie Roseman. I think him and the Eagles have been killing it during this entire draft. I think they were one of the big winners of the first round, getting two guys who can come in and give an impact right away and also be stars in the future. I think they got some great players in the mid-rounds, and now making this trade, I mean, obviously, like I've been talking about this entire video, the Eagles needed a running back, and they were able to get someone in DeAndre Swift, who I consider to be a star when healthy, and they got him for a very low price. I mean, to start off, let's just look at some of DeAndre Swift's production throughout the course of his career. In his 3-year career so far with the Lions, he has had 364 carries for 1,680 yards, 18 touchdowns, and a 4.6 yard per carry average. And then something else that's really great about DeAndre Swift's game is that he's a very good receiving back as well. Again, in his 3 seasons, he's had 156 catches on 205 targets, 1,198 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns. And you may think, well, those numbers aren't that impressive for 3 seasons in the league, and that might be true, but I think a lot of that has been limited by his injuries, and I think that leads us to what the main problem is with DeAndre Swift, and that is his injury concerns, as he's constantly dealt with injuries over the course of his 3-year career that has limited his opportunities and the production that he has had on the field. And last year, he also had a decreased role. Jamal Williams obviously had a great year, and DeAndre Swift was also dealing with some injuries, so his numbers last season didn't look all that great. And I think when we look back on this trade after this season, this is going to be the determining factor in, just how successful this trade was for the Philadelphia Eagles, because if DeAndre Swift is able to stay healthy and he has some great production, then we're going to look back on this trade a lot better than if he were to, say, get injured at some point and just be dealing with that pretty much the whole season. Kind of the problems that he's been having through the course of his career so far. But again, I think DeAndre Swift, when he's healthy, he's an elite running back. He's got some great vision, he's super elusive, he's got some good speed, and like I said, he's good receiving out of the backfield. I just think if he can just stay healthy, I really do think he could be one of the better running backs in the NFL. And the thing that's really great about him coming to the Eagles is that he doesn't have to be an every down back for the team. I mean, obviously, like I said, they have guys like Kenny Gainwell, Rashad Penny, and Boston Scott. I do think DeAndre Swift is definitely the best running back on their roster, and he will surely be the team's lead back, but he doesn't have to be, like I said, an every down guy. He can split carries with some of these other players, and I think that'll reduce the chance of him getting injured. And also, the Eagles have one of the better medical staffs in the entire league. Last season, they had all 22 starters healthy and playing in the Super Bowl, so I think that's definitely a bonus and a good omen for him staying healthy the whole season. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he can do that. And of course, it's also awesome that he's from Philadelphia and now he gets to return and play for his hometown team. And I also think it's pretty hilarious that he also went to Georgia. I mean, Howie Roseman has been going crazy over the past couple seasons, and especially in this draft, adding players that went to Georgia. I mean, he obviously, Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean in the 2022 NFL draft, and then you have Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Kelee Ringo, and now obviously DeAndre Swift. I just think that that's really, really funny.
I'm a Florida Gator. Do you know how much this hurts my soul to take all these Georgia Bulldogs. You know,
Hell yeah, you want to win, though. You want to
I do want to win. I do want to win, my man. You're right. I do want to win more than you know.
And something else about this trade is I also think it's amazing the value that they were able to get Swift for. I mean, they obviously swapped picks with the Detroit Lions, 7th round picks to be exact. I think they moved down around 30 spots, and then they also gave up a 2025 4th round pick. But the thing about this is DeAndre Swift is on the last year of his deal, and say he leaves the Eagles after this season and goes in free agency and signs with another team, the Eagles probably will get a compensatory pick out of it, and that compensatory pick will be for the 2025 NFL draft. So if he leaves, essentially what the Eagles did was swap 7th round picks and got him for a season. So I don't think you're really going to look back on this trade saying it was an ultimate failure, because no matter what, it's not like the Eagles gave up a bunch to get him. And Swift is also a guy that's not going to hurt you too much against the salary cap, as he's pretty cheap. I mean, he has a $1.77 million base salary for the 2023 NFL season, and this is a lot cheaper than some of the other options we were talking about for the Eagles if they were to go out and trade for a running back like a Derrick Henry or a Dalvin Cook that would inevitably cost you a lot more than that. I just absolutely love everything about this move for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think DeAndre Swift is going to have a lot of success on this Eagles offense, playing behind that offensive line and with Jalen Hurts. I think that can only help him and help his game. I hope he can stay healthy, because if he can, I'm telling you, he's going to have a great season. Overall, I just think this was another incredible trade by Howie Roseman, and I cannot wait to see how DeAndre Swift performs for the Eagles in the 2023 NFL season. But that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. How much do you like the DeAndre Swift trade? And if you did enjoy this video and want to see others like it, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos when they go up. And again, drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. And if you want to watch another Eagles video talking about the Eagles' first round of the draft, you can go watch this video right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.